I decided to turn my artistic interpretation of this exhibit into a video because I thought it'd be more engaging and interesting. Also, cool new skill I want to learn. So yeah, let's go through this. And also, this was very fun for me to do because it allowed me to revisit this exhibition again that I hadn't looked at in a really long time. And this will probably happen over multiple days because I am very tired today and I'm running out of time to do this. But this is gonna be very fun. So don't feel guilty if you see this and it's like, it took me a while, but like just watch it because it did probably took me a fair bit of work. Okay, let's dig in. First up is actually the sculptor that has inspired me. Like he inspired me to do an exhibit about trees and then someone else beat me to it. His name is Guillaume Pinon. He is from Italy. And he believes that trees are perfect sculptures because they always leave a record of themselves everywhere. And so what he's done is he has taken two beams that would have been turned into some other form of wood. He found a tree ring of its youth and he carved around it to reveal the inner younger tree. And he's done about 50 sculptures like this. This one, I believe, is the American lark, and it's done in two sections in these images, which might be a little bit tricky to see, but there'll be two photos you get to take a look at. And they are the top bit is upside down in this sculpture, but these pieces were actually in the Art Gallery of Ontario, like when they first reopened, I want to say 15 years ago. They were so stunning and they were so well received in Canada, obviously, because we love nature, that they actually extended the presentation of those sculptures in the space because they were just so good and they fit the space so beautifully. So this is stop number one. I'm also not going to talk about every single artwork in the file folder I have. Those are just the favorites, but I'm going to show you my absolute favorites that I think are the absolute best in the show. Next up is this recorded piece. We're going to see it as a photo, and then you're going to get a video coming at you. And we're going to enjoy the video just as is. And it looks at a fir tree in the artist's native Finland. And he tried to keep it as equal to its scale as possible in these recorded pieces that he's done so that he could blow them up and keep them in high quality. Everything's a little out of sync to give this feeling of surrealness, which will also allow you to look at each section of the tree much more closely. But a theme of this exhibit that I really loved that you'll see repeated over and over again is how important museum spaces are for showcasing parts of our existence and our world, sometimes in its purity, sometimes in its artistic interpretation. In this case, it's almost like humans trying to capture the world around them using new age technology. And I believe this is very important because when you put something into a museum or a gallery space, it forces the audience to like actually look at it and really pay attention. And in Europe, this is something that people take much more seriously, and there's like an education and a language to it. And I love that the curator decided to do an entire exhibit about trees because it really forces everybody to reconsider what a tree is, what it means, how it applies to our life, and the many ways that it shows up for us that we don't necessarily think about. And so in this case, the artist tried to put I think it's like a 30-meter tall tree into a gallery space, which obviously doesn't fit. So they put it on its side and then we get to enjoy it, which I think is like really cool. Turn the light on because it's now getting dark in Whitehorse in the evening. So this piece by Hugh Hayden from Texas, he has looked at what gives trees identity. And he has created this surreal experience where he has covered one of two logs, you should take a close-up look at them, with sharp-tailed grouse feathers, because in his mind, just like skin, bark, scales, feathers, they have this identifiable quality to them. And as a biologist, you probably appreciate that. And so he wanted to create something that was textural, that was like interactive. And it also really turns the idea of what a tree is, because it's like this very grounded, rooted thing. And then you're covering it with feathers that are very soft versus very rough. And that's why the log underneath the top log that's covered in feathers kept the bark on it. So you can see the contrast between the two. I really love this piece because from far away, you don't realize that it's covered in feathers. And then when you get closer, the whole thing changes. And then he left the rest of the tree as is. He just simply glued all these feathers onto it. So I just think this is like really cool and interesting. And it brings me joy because I am attracted to the absurd. Don't take that personally. Okay, so this one's a little interesting. Not my favorite, but I like the concept, and this is why I took a picture of it. So Jimmy Durham from America, this piece is titled "It Should Work," and what he's doing is he's like the last piece, putting two things together to be like, huh. And because we as humans use trees so much to do so much of our life, paper, like toilet paper, like everything we build, like, you know, this, like pencils, that he paired a chunk of an olive tree with a piece of machinery. We don't even know what it does, to summon ideas of industrialism in addition to just how much trees do for us. And Jimmy wishes that this could be a period called the Age of Trees, kind of like the Iron Age or the Bronze Age. Instead, this is the Age of Humans and arguably technology. But we use so much wood all of the time, and we have for so long, that it's kind of like an ode and a thank you to just how much trees work for us, and that we really need to pay better attention to that and look at it. Not the most aesthetically pleasing. I prefer the feather covered log a lot better, but still like a great idea, you know? Okay, this one by Myung-ho Lee from South Korea, Daejeon specifically. This is called Tree Number 2. I believe I took a picture of it because it is kind of like an artwork in an artwork. So what Myung has done is, I believe it's a woman, she has put a canvas behind the tree, or just like a sheet of paper. And I think it's kind of poking fun at the whole idea of like isolating an object into a backdrop, and also particularly poking fun at galleries. There's this whole thing in the gallery world of like the white cube. There's actually a gallery in London. It's a commercial gallery called the White Cube, and there's all these like play on terms with it. Like there's these two women that runs an article group called the White Pube, which is poking art, like fun at the art world and stuff. There's another gallery that's similar to that, like not the White Cube. I think that's in Lisbon. So the whole thing is like, it's this isolated landscape being in a white room in galleries. And it was created in the 20th century with the focus being on the art. Like you shouldn't have any distractions. And it's been challenged, and it's very controversial, and public galleries are now playing around with it. This is something that my gallery is also like thinking about, like why we paint the walls. And the whole point is we need to contextualize objects in space. Art does not exist in a vacuum. This is actually a really important concept. And this is something that this artwork, I think, is really trying to like make a point at. Art does not exist in isolation. Everything is contextual. Nothing is in a vacuum. And so what this does is that it isolates it, but still keeps it within its landscape, its natural landscape that's going on around it, which you can still see. But it's also like very, I keep using the word isolated, but that's just kind of the whole thing. Like now you have this lone tree. Sure, we're focusing on it, and the white background really allows us to see its true beauty and the colors without any other like stuff behind it, kind of making it harder to see. But it also makes it very lonely. And so I think there's a lot of emotions that come out of this, of being like removed from your natural landscape. Perhaps you feel very alone in a really big city. You are highlighted, but you're pedestaled as a model. I felt like that quite a bit, where it's like, okay, cool. Like everyone like is adoring me, but also I feel very alone up here. So I think that's what this artwork really points a finger at, but uses a tree as the focal point to do this. And it's also just a really beautiful tree in autumn, which is like great to look at. I didn't think this was going to be a 2.5 minute video about this, but thank you for listening to my rambling about trees. Okay, we are post festival. I am now in bed in a condo I am borrowing for the evening before I fly back to Dawson tomorrow. And so let's get back into it. So now we look at Mior Giosep Pinon, and these are these sculptures, pieces that were more commonly seen in the AGO in Toronto when they first were installed. Okay, this piece, I'll be honest, I don't know much about it. I didn't take a picture of the label. I don't know the artist names, but what I do really like about it is the feeling of tension, of the precariousness of how it's like structured and like held up, along with what appears to be bark acting as like a ground layer or surface that I think looks a lot like leaves. So it kind of reminds me a lot of like like living death of a sorts, because I know like the roots of a tree go down as much as its branches, but that's not really what's going on here. It kind of feels more almost like dead trees growing out of a bog, and I just thought it looked so interesting. Like, it's just such an interesting sculpture, and that's why it's in this photo series. Okay, this piece is wild to me. I have so many questions about how it was made. It was made by Ugo Rodenone. It is a cast, okay? Meaning like a mold was created and a cast was made. This is made out of metal that's then covered with like a white coat, like powder coating, in order to protect it. This is an olive tree from Italy. It is between 1500 and 2000 years old, and it is a living memorial to the elements and the life of this tree as it's grown. And I I love this because these trees remind me so much of like an older person who's just like kind of haggard, like lived a life, maybe can't like quite stand up straight, but still just has so much vitality to it and is still just like so beautiful and exciting to look at. And it's like grandma when you go to like hang out, because I love the idea of like children playing in this tree. And it's such a surreal thing, and I just think it's so beautiful. And that's why I wanted to include it. Okay, this artwork. I think about this artwork minimum once a year because I am still amazed that it was made. And of course it was made by a Japanese person because it's so intricate, yet so simple, yet so brilliant. It's like so Japan. The artist, whose names I am struggling to pronounce, he comes from a family of cedar lumber mill family. So he like understands the wood making process, right? And so he likes to use the creative process as a means of art itself. So the way this is made, I want you to take a very good close look at this log. He took a cedar log, stripped the bark off of it, then took this machine that's used to slice veneer, and he sliced the tree into over 800 paper-thin slices and then reassembled it sheet by sheet to make it into a log. And I'm just sitting here going like, this is paper, but it's a log, but it's paper, but it's a log. But like, what is paper? We know it's trees, but it's not pulp, but it's not this. It's like a total mind fuck. So much of my appreciation of art is the creative process and just like how people manage these feats of innovation and engineering. Like, I think so much stuff comes out of art, and this is why it's not just women in STEM, it's also STEAM. There's an A for art. It's important to be creative. But like this piece, 10 out of 10, like everything top to bottom, so amazing. And of course, it's fucking Japanese. Okay, this is a controversial one. It is in so many ways an exciting piece to look at because it's colorful and it's playful and it kind of speaks to your inner child, and like the plastic bags kind of look like balloons, but it's also an homage to obviously climate change and just garbage, and like it kind of speaks to a world that is like maybe a fearful world for our future. Like, we don't really know what the artist is trying to say here. I do appreciate that he has live ferns. That's why the tree is underneath like a light, because they actually need the sunlight for the ferns underneath. It's sort of like what it could be. That's a daunting future, along with how it should be at the bottom. There could be other interpretations coming out of this, but I do like how this piece really makes you stop and be like, it's wonderful but terrible at the same time. That's it. This is like a long ass video. I was thinking this might take like 4 minutes. Try to keep it short. You know me, I ramble, I give a lot of detail. It's the tism. So I'll round this off. Just maybe like look at the other images of the trees. You kind of get a gist for it. I think so much of the show was really just looking at like the beauty of nature, but specifically with like a tree focus, just to give it a theme that wasn't about climate change, because like, you know, a scope, you got to like keep it like focused just so that you have like a consistent story and vision, etc. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this wasn't too much. You don't need to comment or give feedback on it. Like, I really just did this for like the fun of it, and I just like I'm doing my best to try and share the beauty of art and the intelligence behind it. And I know it's like a really hard thing to read. It took me a very long time to figure out how to read art. The art of seeing is a language on in itself. So that's it. That's all. I hope you're having a good day, evening, week, whatever, whenever you end up watching this. And I check you out later. Peace.